Welcome to the Cat Blog. My name's Timothy J. Forbes. It's the third week in June 2015, and it was right around this time that George Reeves left us. I went to an event earlier this month that celebrated his life, and here's some highlights from that.
Robert Shane, Jack Larson, Noel Neal, Phyllis Coates, and the very wonderful George Reeves. There was a time when I'd go searching through bookstores, hoping beyond hope to find a book or a magazine with a paragraph or even just a sentence about the series. Today, the series continues to air on television. We have the DVDs, and there are a number of books devoted wholly to our favorite strange visitor from another planet. The first of those books, Superman Serial to Serial by Gary Grossman, was published in 1976, and I credit it with reigniting the flame within me. I was elated when I first saw Superman in 1953, when I was not yet 7, and I was so very saddened when George Reeves' life came to a sudden end in 1959. At the time, however, I could only internalize my feelings, for there was no one else, I felt, who could possibly understand. But with the publication of Gary's book and his subsequent appearance on The Tomorrow Show in October of that year, a new world opened, and I was soon in contact with Gary himself, Whit Ellsworth, Robert Shane, later with Jack Larson, Noel Neal, Phyllis Coates, and Dabbs Greer. And then Don Roden hit upon the idea of connecting not just fans with the series, but fans with fans. And the Adventures Continue magazine was born. Without Gary, without Don, this hall this evening might very well be empty. I have a copy of Gary's book, an autographed copy of Gary's book to give away this evening. Also a copy of Larry Ward's Truth, Justice, and the American Way. A drawing will be held at the conclusion of the meal. And I also have a DVD that Mike Haid produced some years ago, and that will be raffled off also. And before you leave, I also invite you to look at these. Several years ago, Kirk Hastings hit upon the... Before our meal is served, I'd also like to let you know that there are several others with us in spirit tonight. Jack Larson said, Jack Larson, who had called last August's event in California a most extraordinary day, when he was reunited with John Hamilton's son for the first time in 56 years, wishes us all a pleasant and enjoyable evening. Stephanie Shane wishes she could be with us too. And Beverly Washburn wrote, "It sounds like a fun evening. I wish I didn't live so far away, as I would love to be there. If for some reason Superman and the Mole Man should come up in conversation, please pass along my love to all the fans. Tell them how much I enjoyed being a part of it. Have a safe and wonderful time." And I know you won't need to try too hard to feel George's presence here tonight. Seemingly without the least bit of effort, he inspired a generation. Sometimes it seems we've learned his every mannerism, every voice inflection. What a wonderful contribution he made to our lives. Well, I know you're very busy, so I won't keep you. And now our cameras take you to Hurley's, where the Monster Superman dinner is shaping up. Enjoy your meal and enjoy the fine company.
Well, Superman fans here, it's great to see all you guys. George Reeves fans, it's a fabulous thing that we remember George. Especially today, it's D-Day, so because we remember all the our soldiers, and some of our parents were in the war. So my father was at D-Day with Patton, so there's a little remembrance of that. Anyhow, I just figured I told Jim, I had a couple of things to do with DC Comics and Marvel Comics. Actually, it started in high school, hanging around with Brian and George Perez, and we were doing our own comic books from freshman year and drawing our own comic books and passing them around the school. And one of them that George and I wrote, called The Battalion, which you can find in color on George's Facebook page, George Perez. And we had my character Astron, Star Soldier, that I'm bringing back this year. But we had a whole group of characters, and then George drew one. He was great back then. And that's the famous book which, in the book Art of George Perez, the whole chapter devoted to our days at Cardinal Hayes. It talks about how I think it was English class, I don't remember which one, but we were passing the book around to the students, to our fellow students, and the priests found it, the teacher, and he promptly ripped it in half and threw it in the garbage. How dare you do this disgusting stuff here, superheroes. So I pulled it out of the garbage after class and gave it to one of the other guys, and he prepared it, and I kept it for about 10 years. And then we were both working at Marvel. One day in '76, I gave it back to George. I said, "Here, remember this?" So that's been preserved, and it may possibly be published later this year by Tony Lawrence, who does a magazine called the Perez Pace Center. So I've been talking to him about because he lives right near George, and of course he's friends with George in Florida, and we may print it in color, so the whole world can see this wonderful project that we did in high school. But in any case, in high school, George had never been to a comic convention, so I took him to his first comic convention, and then I was like his first agent, so we got some gigs doing some fanzines and things, and then I think it was junior year of high school, I was at an EC convention, comic convention in New York, and I met Bill Gaines and Carmine Infantino, and I just start talking to them, and they say, "Oh, you're a young man. We want to know what someone your age thinks about our comic books. Would you like to go to dinner with us next week? Meet us at the DC." Yeah, sure, why not? So after school, I take the subway down to, at the time they were on 3rd Avenue, DC. And I meet Bill Gaines and Carmine Infantino, and they take me out to a steak dinner at this expensive place across the street. It's like, I don't know, like 15, 16, I don't know. It's like, oh, okay. They asked me, what do you think of our DC comics? Well, I think they kind of suck compared to Marvel. Because
Whoa!
We're kind of like, well, you're being very honest. I was like, yeah, well, kind of boring. It's like, come on, Spider-Man is a lot cooler than what you're doing now. So then after that, I didn't hear anything from him. But then years later, I ended up working for DC. And then '74, George and I both ended up at Marvel. I started writing there, and he was doing his artwork. And in '76, I was working there, and then I got approached by Stan to help run the '76 Marvel Con. So I kind of helped program that, and if anyone remembers it, I premiered Doc Savage the movie at the Marvel Con. And that was the only screening it had aside from being on 42nd Street, because the thing never got released. It escaped. But I showed it at the Marvel Con, along with the Captain America serial, which hadn't been seen in 30 years. And then also, I was telling them, I also ended up being Spider-Man on TV for that convention, because it's like, oh yeah, Stan says, one day I'm in the office with Stan. Tom says, hey Tom, we're going to do a little bit at Channel 9 on the convention. Here's the costume, put it on and go on, TV. I said, okay, sure, Stan. It's like, so I ended up putting a costume on, being at Channel 9, which used to be on 42nd Street, Times Square. And I can't think of the name of the reporter, but he's still on Channel 9. And I put the costume on in the offices, and we walk around the corner of 43rd all the way to the park that's between 8th and 9th, where they filmed West Side Story in the 50s. And we shot a segment there, and the police came up and wondered, what's going on here? We're just shooting a thing for the news. Oh, okay. Is it a psycho or something here? That's what the cop says. Oh, it's only Spider-Man. But in any case, so I was working at Marvel, and then Vince Coletta said, hey, Tom, who used seeing all the Thor and Fantastic Four and all that stuff. Hey Tom, I'm getting a job. I'm going to be the art director at DC. Why don't you come be my assistant? Come on, we'll work over there. I said, okay, Vince. So I ended up working at DC, and then somehow, I don't know how, this is like the next year, well, they started doing the Superman movie, and all of a sudden it's like I'm Xeroxing the script and I'm reading it. And Mario Puzo comes in and says, "Hi Mario, how you doing?" And I say, "Hey, you can't have like Superman like throwing the terrorists off the roof. You know that, right? This doesn't like work." Goes, "Oh, yeah, really?" I said, "Yeah." So eventually I somehow got involved with that, and we were shooting in New York. And so I hung out on the set, and if you see a scene in the movie where they're coming out of the Daily Planet building, the Daily News, I'm in the crowd somewhere there. And then somehow I managed to be the only guy from DC who went to the set in England. So I got a tour of the set by Ned Beatty, and got to see all the sets, which were unbelievable. The Luther's Lair set looked so real, but it was all linoleum. That's what all the marble was all linoleum. And the other thing that was funny, the story is that I think it was the first time Christopher Reeves was told that he got the part. I believe it was the first day he got the part. He was up in the office, and he was leaving that day. The two of us ended up leaving the building at 75 Rock at the same time. So, I was like talking to him in the elevator, we were talking, yakking, and so we ended up both going down to the village, so I went down with him in the subway or whatever, and we were talking, and he was like asking me questions about Superman, and I was giving him whatever information, I could. And I said, "Well, where are you going now?" He goes, "Oh, I'm going to an audition for a commercial." I said, "Chris, you just got the job as Superman." He goes, "Well, you never know what happens in this business, so that's kind of a story that has never been told." So even the day he got part of Superman, he's still going on auditions because he wasn't sure that I could have fell through, and who knows. But that was my excitement at being involved with the Superman movie. I mean, but then we saw all kinds of. I remember seeing the Polaroids of some of the auditions and being horrified as Sylvester Stallone in the Superman costume. That was pretty bad.
The old Adrian.
Yeah, it didn't work out. So I think the movie worked out pretty good. Pretty good. Of course, in some of the one of the things that we saw when they were shooting in New York was the scene that was cut from the original cut of Superman suit, with the Lois falling out the window, which was reinstated in the Donner cut of Superman, which is, but I'm sure everyone's seen that, right? Oh, okay, that's a great. So that's, and then of course, while I was at DC, I did my comic book Astron Star Soldier, which was one of the first independent comics that came out before Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and was distributed on newsstands by Phil Suling, and I'm coming out with that again this year. I have some of my friends in the business there helping me out with some additional illustrations and things like that, and that's going to be a regular kind of gig. And I did a little illo of George Reeves, which I made copies for everybody, so it's a $50 value free, and I'll have copies here for everybody, and I'll sign for one. Sign for that, and then I've worked on some independent films. We did one a couple of years ago called Just Like Joe. You can see it online for free. We won a couple of awards in New York at the Soho Film Festival and Long Island Film Festival, and we're hoping that it's supposed to be on PBS in the fall. And it's about a high school football team in 1969, so kind of based on high school experiences, but it's a very moving story. And then we worked on another one with Armand DeSanti last year called Jesse, and that, if you're at Walmart or Target, they have copies there, $9.95. And we just finished filming one called Disco in Long Island, and that's going to be at the Long Island International Film Festival in July. in Belmore, Long Island, so you'll see it there. But anyhow, any questions at all before I sit down?
I have a question.
Yeah.
My friend Steve Morris told me the other night on the phone that 20th Century Fox has actual copies of the George Reeves compilation films that were released in 1954, and that how can we put some pressure on them to release those?
Well, the thing is,
Conflict with Warner Brothers.
Fox has the possession of the print and negatives, so what you got to do is pressure Warner Archive, because a lot of you might have seen the blog I put on the Warner Archive site, and I put all the posters on there, and I got a reply back from them saying that they're looking for the prints, but that's as far as it
There
went.
are connecting seeds that we.
Yeah, I have no idea. I've never seen them. I know that supposedly they were in the DC archives, according to someone who was there, about 20 years ago. But let's put pressure on Warner, because they could probably make a deal and get those negatives. Right, exactly. They made a deal back. Yeah.
What year was it that Warner's first approached Fox about re-releasing the compilations?
Well, Warner's never did. It was actually National.
So what year was it they first approached Fox?
That was about 54, I
Really?
believe. About 54 they did all those compilations, and they were introduced in Europe and in South America. They released them in Spanish or Spanish subtitles.
But when did Warner's approach Fox about a home video or DVD release?
I don't think they have.
Oh, all right.
Because I actually made I put a thing on their website, and I gave a whole thing on it, and I posted the photo posters and everything, and they got back to me and they said, oh, we can't find it. So I said, well, it was in the archives, so keep looking. So if you guys write them on the Warner Archive on Facebook and say, hey, maybe they'll get off their tuchus and do something, because they know that if they know that people will buy it, then they'll come out with it.
Only Superman can. The public service announcement telling kids not to jump out the window. There's stories from the 50s that they filmed it. Where is the film? Has anybody ever seen it?
I don't know. Alan, have you ever seen it? No, Alan's never seen it. I don't know. I never saw it in the archives that were at DC, so they had other stuff there, but not that. So God only knows. It probably was, but it's probably sitting, like a lot of things, it's probably sitting in an archive, and the label fell off, and someday someone will, oh, look at where we found
They
it.
got a warehouse in New Jersey, right? The radio show.
Well, yeah, but who knows if they're transferring that stuff to California, and you never know what. But it's probably sitting somewhere. But it's a matter of, are they going to think it's going to be worth their while to do anything with it to make money? That's the bottom
Pay
line.
to see it.
Well, we know that. We know that, but the problem is that they don't want to. Anyhow, anything else?
Any idea why George Reeves' version of Superman has never been licensed out to any kind of memorabilia or merchandise, like action figures?
I think what it is that someone has to ask. I think that if someone asks, I know that there was a limited edition kind of action figure I've seen. That was George Reeves.
Custom made though.
Was it custom made?
I think so, yeah.
But it was sold for a couple $100. So I don't know if it was a legit thing or not.
Unlicensed thing.
Was
But
it
it
unlicensed?
seems to me, do you know who actually has the rights? It seems to me it would have somebody in his family. I mean, the rights to his.
If there's any,
It seems to me that it may well be a problem to figure out who actually has that.
exactly, exactly. I mean, if someone wants to come out with an action figure, I'm sure DC would happy
But
to
it's
take their
not,
money.
but you misunderstand what I'm saying. It's not, DC can't license George Reeves'
Right, his image, exactly.
His family has to license
Exactly,
it.
or whoever his heirs
As a matter
are.
of fact, it would actually be illegal in this state to actually sell something like that.
Right. So that's probably why. But
That's what happened. mean, I don't know who they are. You talk to them, actually, you never find out. Well, I mean, really.
Yeah, okay, let's go back to this. Yeah,
I don't think it's not as simple. All I'm saying is, it's not as simple.
It's exactly. I'm going to turn the mic over to my good friend and colleague, Alan Asherman.
Hello. We're here tonight because in 1951, National Comics decided to go into the motion picture business. They wanted to do a film about Superman, and at the same time, other people suggested, why don't you do a television series? Robert Maxwell, who was producing the Superman radio serials, was chosen to produce the first season of the TV show. They sent along Whitney Ellsworth, the head of editorial administration there, as the point man to make sure that anything that was produced would not reflect unfavorably on Superman or on the other National Comics products. What they managed to do, with the assistance of a man named Barney Surecki, was amazing. Barney Surecki had been working on and off in the industry for years. You can see his name on the Buck Rogers serial in 1939, on many Republic and Monogram westerns from the 1930s and 40s. He knew all the shortcuts of how to film with a number of setups per day, a maximum number of setups, and a minimum cost per day. Only a man like Surecki could have done it. And thank God they had him. And he contacted a lot of people he knew in the industry who were out of work or who wanted to do things in new venues such as television. And the Adventures of Superman finally got off the ground. They booked space at the old RKO Culver Studios, where they shot Gone with the Wind. What they did was to produce something that's magical. That's the only way to describe it. First of all, they lucked out tremendously. They got George Reeves to play Superman. It's the only time, I think, that an actor was chosen to portray a superhero because he was a good actor. Because he had a good face, because he had a good voice, because he knew how to move, because he had radio experience even. They went and they got rights to use music for the first season, and then the second season, from libraries. They chose the right music. They also had a music editor in the first season, whose name was Leon Klatskin. Now, he has taken credit for writing the theme to The Adventures of Superman. No one really knows for sure whether he did. The only thing anybody knows for sure is that his name is on the cue sheets. But of course, he wrote the cue sheets. That was part of his job. But whoever wrote that, it's an ingenious theme. It sounds like a combination of a march, a national anthem, and basically a classic musical come-on. Watch this. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be great. It's going to be memorable. And they had Whitney Ellsworth, an ex-newspaper man, writing the introductory copy with Robert Maxwell, who was also a journalist. And they wrote what I think, together with Gilligan's Island, is the best opening series of words describing the continuity of a television series. And you hear them in the voice of a wonderful voiceover.